Hello, this is Robert Demers here at the Fantasia International Film Festival with Jonathan In, who just showed his animated short, Requiem for Romance. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. How did it feel to have your short on the big screen?
It was great. This is my city where I live, and it's where I'm based, and lots of the other animated films were done by colleagues and friends of mine, so it feels really good to show it in like home turf, so it felt really awesome.
And can you tell us a little bit about the short for the people who weren't in the audience?
Yeah, it's basically a martial arts love story animated in this Chinese water ink technique that was kind of inspired by the Chinese water ink films of the 1950s, 1960s. So it's also kind of a little personal story, so that's basically it.
I was in the audience watching the film, and I have to say, it was one of my personal favorites out of the whole bunch.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
How long did it take to make that? Because it looked very detailed, and it must have took a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I was working part-time on the film for about a year and a half. I had, to balance other contracts, like I work as a freelance animator. So actually during the time that I was working on this, I was working on a series called Ugly Americans on Cartoon Network. That's sort of was what I was doing for money, and I was also working on a feature film from France called Le Jour des Corneilles, which means Day of the Crows. That's touring festivals as well. So yeah, I had to balance like freelance work with my labor of love. So I guess it took about a year and a half.
You said that it is a personal story besides the action fights. How did that relate to you? What inspired that story?
Well, a lot of it has to do with pursuing a career in arts and money, and in sort of, a lot of these sorts of conversations come up with family and, the ones that are closest to you. But when it kind of came up during like a conversation with somebody that I was in a relationship with, it became something that I guess it just came out this way, sort of almost like like singers, they might write a breakup song, and so for me it was sort of like a breakup song in the form of a film, kind of.
But much more touching.
Hopefully, thanks.
And can you tell us a little bit about how you made the film, the technicals?
Yeah, so if you can look at some of this art here, this water ink is actually filmed, so it was still wet. So I filmed it live. I created the paintings live under a camera. I had storyboarded the whole thing, so all of the water was moving in relating to screen direction, like the wind, the water, the fire. It's all kind of represented by this moving water ink. And then once that was all shot, I animated the characters by hand over top on like a Wacom Cintiq. It's like a digital screen that you can draw directly on. So I combined sort of traditional water ink with frame-by-frame animation. So.
Is there anything that you're working on now that to top this, or even go farther with?
Yeah, I'm going to continue with this technique of creating live water ink footage and combining it with animation, and I'm going to make a feature film.
That sounds really interesting.
Thank you. It's going to sort of be more of a legend. It's not going to be the same concept as the film, the short film, where you're mixing modern dialogue with the visuals. I'm going to really go into this world of the artwork. So,
can you give us a little hint of what the story might be, just a little bit?
Yeah, it's going to be basically a scarred hero who, in the adrenaline of battle, his scars like fade away. His pain of the scars, it fades away, so he becomes this really really great warrior, basically. And then he finds the cures for his scars through meeting this female warrior, and he kind of falls in love. And that's kind of, I guess, the gist.
It sounds like it's something that I would personally want to see, and I think a lot of people out there would also.
I'm hoping it'll be this epic thing. So that's I actually traveled to Asia to look for financing recently in March. I went with my line producer and my co-writer. My co-writer is actually from Beijing, and he wrote recently a feature film script for a very well-known Chinese director over there. So we're hoping to combine and do a co-production between Canada, China, and maybe France.
Sounds like you're going to have your work ahead of you.
Yeah, it's definitely ahead of me. So I'm using this momentum for the short film to just jump ahead and push it forward.
And if people want to find your work and maybe even buy the DVD, where can they find you online?
My website is johnjohnphenomenon.com. So that's JONJONPHENOMENON.com. It's a long one.
Well, thank you very much for talking with us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time here at the festival.
Thank you.
Thank you.